Macca's Guides.
Hey everyone, Macca here, and with Shadow Warrior 3 recently being added to Xbox Game Pass, I decided to put together a quick collectibles guide showing you all of the available orb upgrades. Now, there are 57 physical orbs you'll have to pick up as you play through the game, but you also have to unlock all of the orbs in the challenge menu of the game. So as you're playing through, work on challenges and make sure you redeem those rewards. And don't worry if you miss something, you can always chapter select once you finish the game in order to mop stuff up. Personally, I was able to grab the 1000 gamer score in right around 5 hours, and I think that's a realistic number for most people. You'll start your journey with a little bit of a tutorial level and then make your way to Motoko, and there should be a purple orb directly in front of you on the main path that you'll basically be forced to pick up as you play. A little bit later on, you'll come to a series of bridges where you'll jump and take care of a few enemies, and pretty much on the main path as well. Just after you jump to the left here, you will find your first gray orb. You can always pause the game and spend these orbs to upgrade your character and your weapons. A common gameplay element in Shadow Warrior 3 is that you'll do an arena fight. Once that is over, you'll be able to shoot a glowing yellow tree branch that will open up the path to continue the main story. Once you do that and slide down this hill, you'll have a short cutscene which you can skip, but if you look down and to your right, instead of continuing to your left, you'll be able to find a gray orb here, which is easily missable. A little bit later on, again, you'll take care of some enemies, and that will allow you to shoot open the door. As you walk through, there will be a very obvious purple orb directly in front of you. You can't miss this one. From the previous collectible, if you turn to the left, you will continue along the main path, and then you'll have to slide down this ramp, make a jump, do a couple of wall climbs, and you'll end up on a ledge. As you end up on the ledge, look to your right-hand side. There will be a small hole in the rock system here. If you jump in, you'll find your third purple orb. The next level is called Motoko's Thunderdome. You'll navigate through some pretty standard and linear paths where you jump across some gaps and wall climb. Once you land on a platform here, instead of continuing forward, look to the right hand side. You can find a little bit of a secret path that leads to a gray orb. You'll then finish a little bit of an arena fight that will open up a branch that you can shoot. Once you shoot it down, there'll be a very obvious orb directly in front of you on the main path. Now, another tip I have is to turn on subtitles, and you can try to match your subtitles to my subtitles, which are on screen. That way you'll have a more obvious reference point of exactly where you are in the mission. But if you're following the main path, you'll eventually reach a point where the little monster you're chasing goes to the right-hand side, and we're gonna climb up to the ledge on the left, and you'll be able to spot this orb from pretty far away. But if you do a little bit of platforming, you should be able to navigate to it. You'll then be forced to slide down this ramp and into a couple of enemies. This is not a full-blown arena fight, but then you'll have to do 2 wall climbs underneath this bridge, and as you exit, there's a very obvious purple orb you should grab. Still in that same mission, you will finish a large arena fight. You'll have to shoot down some branches to climb up and leave the area. Once you do that, you'll end up at this tree, and if you drop down to the left and underneath that tree, you can find a gray orb. Just a friendly reminder, you should be working on challenges as you play if you want to minimize your playthroughs. We now move on to the mission, That Damn Dam, and you'll climb up this tower, and you'll be able to exit the tower into the outdoors. Instead, follow along the path, staying inside. You'll have to go near some boxes and go across a bridge and then slide, and you'll find a purple orb. Again, equip these as it'll make your gameplay a little bit easier. After an arena fight, you'll have to exit by shooting down some branches and then climbing up this little wall run area. Here you'll unlock a new weapon. You can use that new weapon, which I actually like. It's a pretty powerful weapon, especially if you upgrade it. But you'll be able to shoot down some branches and then swing across this large gap into the next area. And that bridge that we just swung under, we actually have to try to get on top of it to find probably the most well-hidden collectible in the entire game. So jump up on these rocks. It's not a very obvious jump, and then you can find the orb on the very tip top here. So grab that. And from that collectibles location, if you were to just continue following that kind of bridge structure, you should be able to spot another gray orb on the other side on one of the kind of platforms here. It can be a little bit hard to see, but if you double jump right into it, it should work. This next one is pretty obvious, very hard to miss. You'll be navigating around these platforms, doing a couple of swings. You'll run across this wall run and then into another swing and then climb on up. And look to the left as you jump up on this platform. You'll have to go this way, but a couple of enemies will spawn, but you'll also grab the very obvious purple orb. From the previous collectible, after you take out the enemies, just follow along the main path by using the grapple hook, climbing up the wall. The pillar will fall, and then if you do another grapple hook swing, you'll basically land right on top of a gray orb. Very hard to miss along the main path again. A lot of the orbs are decently hidden, but a lot of them are also pretty much unmissable. After climbing to pretty much the top of the structure, you can't miss this location. You'll have to walk forward and to the left. Instead of continuing down the bridge, there's a small little creep hole you can slide under to the left. This will lead you to some scaffolding. You can then jump across and climb up the wall runs. And on the second wall run, you'll find a gray orb moving on to the next level. We then move on to the mission Caves of the Mole People. You'll be doing the mandatory kind of parkour section near the very beginning of the mission. You'll land on this platform, and instead of continuing on, look to your left where you'll find a small wall run that you can use to get to a gray orb. After defeating this arena, you'll be able to leave by shooting the branches to the left-hand side of the statue. Instead, grapple up to the right-hand side of the statue, and here you'll be able to shoot a new branch that'll lead to a gray orb. You'll then continue along the mandatory path, doing a little bit of the parkour section, sliding underneath a branch, and then opening up into this large cavern. Look to your left-hand side where you can do a wall run onto a rickety wooden bridge. From here, you can use your grapple hook to get up onto a ledge and wall run across to a purple orb. You'll eventually make it into this room. There will be a lot of enemies to fight, and then there's a little bit of a puzzle where you got to shoot these targets to lower bridges to maneuver across. You have to do these puzzles, so don't worry, you can't miss them. But on the way out of these puzzles, there's a little bit of a specific trick that you're going to want to have to do in order to grab two of the kind of orbs here. On the third bridge, instead of landing on it and then immediately running forward, let it lift you back up to the top, and here you can find a hidden path up to an orb. From the previous collectible, basically just drop down to where we were and continue along the main story path, and there is a pretty much unmissable gray orb directly in your path. I don't know if you can beat the mission without getting it. You'll come to yet another arena. Again, I'm begging you to please try and complete as many challenges as possible to save yourself time. There's also a couple of cumulative achievement / trophies for killing enemies in specific ways. You might want to try working on those as well. But once you are finished this arena, instead of leaving, look to the corner. You'll find a very well hidden target that you can shoot to lower a bridge, revealing a secret area. And in this secret area, you can then jump across to another gray orb. The next mission is called Walking on Eggshells. You'll come to this statue and unlock your final weapon in the game, and as you walk around the corner there may be a small battle, but if you navigate to the right hand side there's a little bit of a maze here, but you'll be able to find a path that leads up onto the hill behind the statue where you can find a gray orb. You'll then come to this area. There's some subtitle context that might help you out, but this is a mandatory little puzzle you'll have to solve by shooting the branches behind the door. That'll open up the door. You'll then be able to go through this kind of pagoda and hop on the top ledge, and you'll be able to jump across a gap that you wouldn't have been able to jump across before. You should pretty much land on a non-missable gray orb. After another arena fight, you'll be able to lower this bridge by shooting the 2 branches, but before you leave, if you turn around, you'll be able to find a wall run that's curved on the outside edges of this area. And if you're doing this wall run, you might find some branches that you can shoot that reveal a small hidden cave. Inside that cave, a collectible. Moving back to that drawbridge that exits the area, instead of going down the bridge, look to the left-hand side as you get on top of it, shoot the branches that block the way, and then use a wall run to navigate to a small island with a tree where you'll find another gray orb. From that previous collectible, you can use your grappling hook to get back onto the main story path, and then you can just walk across the bridge, and at the top of the steps, you'll find a very obvious purple orb right in front of you.
It's worked before, it'll work again. Trust me.
We move on to the next mission, being Egg Express, and once you can no longer ride the river ride, you'll exit to the left-hand side, and you'll be able to use a wall run to get to a platform where there may be a fight. Look to the right-hand side to see a small break in the rocks, where you can use a double jump and a dash to find a gray orb before taking out the enemies. Then you'll come to an arena, and you'll be able to exit the arena using this wall run to the left after you break it down, and in front of you, a non-missable gray orb on your main story path. From the previous collectible, you'll walk forward, and you can look to the right-hand side to do a wall run up the side of the mountain. You'll then be able to climb a couple of ledges and shoot the branches. You'll have to go here, and you'll find a pretty obvious gray orb directly in front of you again. This next one can be a little bit sneaky, but you'll be riding the river ride, and eventually you'll come to a waterfall, and you'll have to jump off of that waterfall, saving yourself using the grappling hook to your right-hand side. And this one can be a little bit tricky, because instead of getting the other grappling hook in front of you, look to your right and you can find a path that leads underneath the secret waterfall where all good collectibles are hidden, finding a purple orb inside. This next purple orb is also basically on the main story path. You'll climb a small wall run, and then you'll have to navigate this kind of series of broken bridges with a very obvious purple orb sitting in the middle of one of the bridges. And after that series of bridges where we just found the purple orb, you can continue forward, go up the wall run directly in front of you. You'll then be able to use a grapple hook to get up to the next ledge. And here, use the stairs on the right-hand side, and then you'll find a small path off to the left where if you crawl through and jump across a gap, this will take you to a gray orb that is easily missable. The next mission is called Doomsday Device. After completing this area, the doors will open up. There will be a staircase in front of you on your way to the main story path. Near the top of the steps, look to the left. You'll find a small hole that you can slide through to find a gray orb. From that previous location, slide back to the main path. Continue forward towards the grappling hook. Use the grappling hook and you'll basically land on your next gray orb on the main path. You'll then reach this obvious golden statue as a landmark, and you'll have to use this target in order to navigate across this puzzle. Halfway through, instead of using the grappling hook in front of you, look to the right-hand side and you'll find a somewhat hidden wall run on this kind of island. And if you use this wall run, you'll end up inside of a structure with a purple orb. You'll then follow the main story path and wall run into this large arena. There will be a couple of tubes and pipes you'll need to connect. It's a mini puzzle here. But before you do that, you can grab a couple of orbs. On the back side near some of the purple tubes, you can find a purple orb. And then if you were to look towards the large rotating red rings, you can jump down off of the ledge here, end up on a lower ledge to find a gray orb before finishing what you started. Moving on to the mission called Wayfarer's Forest. Near the beginning of the mission, just run forward, you'll dash across, and as soon as you jump off this cliff and land down towards your main story path, a very obvious gray orb in front of you that you can't miss. From that very obvious collectible to the next one being not so obvious, Walk forward, use the grappling hook, navigate across the ledges and branches until you get to the next grappling hook. After using that grappling hook, what you'll want to do is basically turn around and you'll see a ledge behind you that you couldn't have accessed unless you looked here. This will allow you to basically platform jump to the gray orb. You'll then shoot your way through these golden branches. Again, I hope you are working on challenges. This is a pretty good mission to get a couple of challenges done, and you're using those orbs towards upgrades. After you shoot those branches, you'll have to navigate down. You'll end up here with a very obvious gray orb in front of you, but a bunch of enemies will spawn as you're grabbing it, so keep that in mind. And as soon as you take care of those enemies while standing on that branch, look to your right-hand side and you'll be able to find a couple of platforms that will take you straight to a very well-hidden purple orb. A little bit later on, I was personally grinding my challenge to kill these balloon enemies before their balloon popped, and there is a completely unmissable purple orb in basically the middle of a trunk that you land on. And then a little bit later on in the mission, you'll use a grappling hook, do this long wall run up. Once you reach the very top, turn around and look behind you down and to your left. You'll notice a couple of these kind of mushrooms hanging out from the side of the tree. And if you navigate to the lowest one, you should be able to find a well-hidden gray orb. The next mission is the Fast and the Furry. Near the very beginning of the mission, you'll navigate through the parkour and you'll land basically on a gray orb. You won't see mine, but you'll have to trust me, it is here. The next thing you can find is after an arena fight, you'll have to navigate through these kind of circular platforms and use this grappling hook to get onto this ledge. Instead of continuing forward and following the rabbit, look to the left-hand side where you can find a hidden path that leads to a gray orb. Continue playing until you get this cutscene, which I did skip, but you'll be coming down a ice slide. After that, you'll regain control of your character, and right in front of you, jump across the gap in order to find a gray orb. From that previous collectible, turn around instead of moving forward through the level, and you'll be able to find this kind of pagoda with a very well hidden purple orb inside before you move on. Continue playing the level until you have to navigate these platforms using your grapple hook and your wall run, and you should come up a path and you should find a very obvious purple orb directly in front of you. After climbing up the next platform, there will be a fight. Feel free to use your energy to push enemies into the spikes to grind achievements or trophies, but after you grab that, go up the next ledge, look down and to the right to find an orb. The next mission is Midnight Snack. You'll come to this mandatory parkour section that ends in a long vertical wall run up of a cliff's face, and as soon as you climb to the top, you'll notice a gray orb in front of you. From the previous collectible, climb up the ledge, and in front of you here, there will be a bunch of ice spikes falling to the ground. But keep to the right-hand side, and you'll notice some floating ledges. Use those floating ledges, but watch out, they are slippery. And navigate to the wall runs underneath this map, and here you'll find a very well-hidden gray orb. Next up, you'll grapple across a gap, navigate to a platform that leads into a vertical wall run. Wall run to the top of this small spire, and you'll notice a gray orb in front of you. That's pretty hard to miss. Last but not least, along the main story path, you'll use another grappling hook to get to this ledge. There'll be a large vertical climb to your left. Instead of taking it, use the rocks on the right-hand side to climb up this little rock structure and find the purple orb. The last mission of the game is called Intestinal Inspector, and the chapter select will say that it has 2 gray orbs. However, we will find 3, and you do need all 3. The first one doesn't count towards the counter in chapter select, but you do need it. You'll navigate up this tall, spirally ice structure, and near the top, look to the right-hand side to find a cave you can slide in to find the orb. Now, a decent amount of time later, you'll come through this area. You'll notice kind of the beating heart to our right-hand side. there's this green bounce pad you would use to jump to the right to shoot through some gold branches to continue through the level. Instead, there's a path that's hidden if you keep going left, and you can use a bounce pad to get on top of here and find the purple orb. Then a little bit later on, you will shoot through some more golden branches leading into a wall run to more golden branches. Here you may notice a grappling hook directly in front of you to cross the large gap. Do not use it, instead fall straight down and you can land on top of a very well hidden gray orb. Last but not least, just after the previous collectible, you'll use this bounce pad to jump all the way up the dragon, leading into a grappling hook that goes into a wall run. Here, if you look to your left, you'll find a gray orb, but what you need to do is jump up onto the ledge and then fall down into the area to grab it, and this should be all of the physical orbs you need in the game to unlock your upgrades. At this point, go to your challenges, redeem all of your challenges, and you should have enough to upgrade your character and weapons to unlock the achievement. If you don't have all of the challenges done, mop them up in chapter select. Don't forget to drop a like on the video and recommend it to a friend. A super special thank you to everyone on Patreon for supporting the show, and hopefully I see you soon. Peace.